This is the Amazon 1-month overview reading for the month of October 2023. It's currently August 25th, 2023, 8:34 p.m. Eastern Time. Amazon, at the time of this reading in the extended hours, is currently $133.02. That's USD. And the shuffle file for the Amazon October reading was created on August 1st, 2023 at 2 o'clock p.m. That's this video right here. The overall theme and behavior for Amazon in the month of October is a U-shaped dip that forms near the intersection of two perpendicular diagonal trend lines. This is a U-shaped dip on like a multi-year type of scale. It's crossed with a move higher and then a full retracement of that move back down. The move higher that'll stand out on a multi-day scale, at least like a 1-month scale, and then we'll retrace that move. There's an unexpected move to the upside to reach the high, which it looks like the real high is going to be the following month. We have a high at the beginning of the month here, but it looks like the other end of that U-shaped dip where we come up on the high again is probably in the following month of November. Behavior around the low. This is also pretty interesting, guys. So when we did the S&P 500 reading, we had a cross-reading congruency between the 1 year readings low significator and the 1 month of October's readings low. In other words, we had the same card indicating being the low significator on the 1 year, and then also showing up in the low significator position when we're looking at the 1 month. It's also on the 1 year where we see the lowest low is in October. There's a lowest low correlation here. So we've got like a really strong like trifecta, if you will, of indications that we have a lowest low for the year here in October. We saw that exact same thing take place with the S&P 500 October reading and the S&P 500 2023 reading. The same thing, the same card indicated here was the Princess of Discs in the low correlator position on the 1 year reading. Also appeared in October in the low, or actually it was the theme card in October. And also took place where we saw a low correlation here on the cusp of September, October. So there's a really strong indication that we're going to have a market bottom, Amazon included here in October, and it looks like towards the end of the month of October, towards the third week. And it also offers an opportunity, obviously, to open up a long position for a multi-day or even maybe a multi-month standpoint kind of trade, which we'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. All right, before we go any further, let's take a look at August and see how we're doing thus far. So looks like we were off a couple days on the high. We had a significant high taking place on the 7th. Looks like that was actually the highest high. We had it as a significant high. We had the highest high on the 10th. Looks like the 10th ended up being another significant high, but not the highest high, so we kind of had them backwards, but it's still pretty solid there. We got this big jump on the 4th. Often the adjustment card is a gap up, and you can see from the 3rd to the 4th significant gap up on earnings. And then we have a lowest low on the 23rd, and it looks like we're off a day, just by 1 day there on the 23rd, possibly with a lower price level here on the 28th, 29th. It's possible that we see a lower price level there, and it actually looks like, based on what's happened, that we probably will see a lower price level there on the 28th, 29th. Keep in mind that these are lows here, right? This is still part of the month of August, so there's probably some more to drop. But this is looking like a pretty solid reading. When we look at the 1 year, a similar thing transpires. We had a highest high in August. And it's interesting, in the S&P we had a highest high in July, not August, and the highest high ended up being in July, right here on the cusp. Here, the highest high ends up being in August, right here at the beginning, right on the cusp. It's like we nailed that, guys. That's the highest high for the year. And by the time we enter into October, we should be coming into the lowest low for the year. So a really significant drop between August into October. There's a little bit of like a reprieve in the midst of September, but not for long. And this is looking really solid. I mean, this is big drop off of the high of January to the low. Another big drop off of May. Yeah, guys, I mean, and if you're wondering, the 1 year was created October 26, 2022 at 10:55 p.m. Almost a year ago, still being used today. All right, so let's get back into it. the day-by-day chart behavior. So on the first, out of a decline, we have a fast sudden move higher marking the end of a decline. There's also probably the high for the month there on the cusp of the second, third, maybe the early in the morning on the third, like a breakout overnight to the upside, and then we decline into a trough at the end of the day on the third. On the fourth, probably a gap down or out of a early morning low. There's a big move higher and possible like breakout of some kind. On the fifth, we have mixed behavior. We have some vague cross-reading congruencies here for months highs. They're vague. They're not as strong as the second, but it's possible. And when we were looking at the S&P 500, it was either that we had a high on the second, and then we had highs again here around the fifth, sixth. Or that we had a high on the second and maybe a high again in the middle of the week of the second week. But so there's similar kind of things going on here. Lows at the end of the month, very, very similar pattern going on. So I'm feeling pretty strong about this reading. A trough early in the day on the 6th. It'll be an important trough standing out on a multi-day scale. Matter of fact, on the 5th, if I didn't say, we have a sideways S formation that forms within a channel. So from a resistance, we'll decline to support, reverse, go all the way back to that resistance, reverse, go all the way back to that support. And usually it's horizontal resistance and support, but sometimes if it's a really strong trend, it'll be to the downside. On the 6th, we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance followed by a decline through key support. There's also a notable trade opportunity there. Looks like the trade opportunity on the cusp of the 3rd, 4th was an entry point, and then on the 6th, there's an exit there. And we'll talk about what type of chart behavior to look for on the one-day charts for the 3rd, 4th, and the 6th for the entry and exit chart behavior that we're looking for on those days. We'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. If you're interested, guys, that's a really great way to support the channel. You get the paid version here at SMeta Posts. Scroll down the monthly subscription. Because this is the Amazon subscription, the only way to get the paid version is going to be through the 30 days access to all paid monthly. There's a few of our tickers that are like that. Amazon and Google, two of those, the only way to get them is through there. Or there's other ones. If you're interested in just one ticker, you could pick any one of these, but if you get this, you have access to the paid version of all of these. And the paid version includes the best trades that we see, what type of chart behavior to look for entry and exit. It's usually about 3 to 10 minutes of additional content at the end of the video. All right, guys, so let's get back into it. On the 9th, there's a rally that ends with a decline through a key support level on a multi-day scale. Decline continues into a trough on the midday on the 10th, out of which we have a big move to the upside from the bottom of a range to the top of a range. Move to the upside continues on the 11th, reaching for a distant resistance, especially towards the end of the day on the 11th. There's a big move to the upside, and we have a peak or crest on the cusp of the 11th, 12th. Sideways rotation on the 12th that ends with a fast sudden move higher. And it may be that fast sudden move higher takes place on the 13th, because we have, out of a decline or in the face of seemingly overwhelming headwinds, we have a big move to the upside, taking us to what may be a highest high. I think the strongest probable location of a highest high is going to be here around the cusp of the 2nd, 3rd. And then it's possible that we see it again here, or this just ends up being a really prominent high. Trade opportunity at the end of the day. We'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. On the 16th, notable decline. There's a brief peak that's easily missed and a notable decline through multiple support levels. There's also a cross-reading congruency with the early significator card on the October cluster of the 1 year, indicating that this is a significant decline. It'll be notable on a 1 month scale, really standing out. We also saw a pretty notable decline here on the 16th when we were looking at the S&P 500 out of oversold territory, and this will probably be our lowest low thus far here at the end of the day on the 16th. Now, out of oversold territory and a prominent trough there in the morning of the 17th, we have a big move to the upside out of oversold territory, or possibly like a gap up or to fill a previous gap down. But there will be a notable move to the upside, and there's a trade opportunity we'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. On the 18th, a trade opportunity as well early in the day, and a notable decline. Another day that really stood out on the S&P as a big decline was here on the 18th, and it looks like we create multiple new resistance levels on the way down. The 19th, a lot of price change covered an important resistance level early in the day highlighted. I'm advised not to chase that rally, and then there's a lot of price change off of that prominent peak to the downside into the 20th, where we rotate sideways, attempting to establish support. either a gap down over the weekend into the 23rd or just a significant move to the downside early on the day of the 23rd, or both. But it's a bearish day. We come to a lowest low thus far here early in the day on the 23rd. And then we have a cross-reading congruency here. This was the sneak preview card from the prior month of September, indicating an important move here where we probably go from a low to a prominent peak and then back to the low again, or a lower low here. But we see this move higher through resistance. We stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter. There's 3 pokes through the same price level on the 25th. And off of that third poke, there's a sharp decline to what may be another low or trough. A peak or crest on the 26th midday that we sell off from down to and through support on a multi-day scale. We do a U-shaped reversal below that support level, come back and reuse it as support. And it looks like another notable move, either over like from the midday on the 26th into the 27th, or maybe it's like a gap down overnight into the 27th, or just the early part of the day, possibly like a peak or crest at the end of the day on the 27th. Either that, or it'll be on the 30th, where we have a near overbought crest or peak that we sell off from through multiple support levels. Sharp drop or gap down overnight between the 30th and the 31st, and a prominent trough there, or possibly a lowest low. But it's probably the same low as the 25th. If it's going to be a significant low, an important range will be highlighted, and that's an important range on a multi-day scale. Sneak preview for November, a sideways fluctuating rally that precedes a decline, and it looks like we have a higher price level in November than we did for the high in October. Guys, don't forget to follow that rule of karma. Super important to keep the channel running. Go to tarotfortraders.com, click on resources. We're asking that people donate 5% of the profits from the information on this channel forward to one of these charities, and 5% of the profits back to the channel here. That leaves you with 90% of the money left over. Make sure to spend that money out of love. As long as you do that, the universe is going to send it back to you tenfold through this channel, my friends. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. We're going to get into the best trades that we see momentarily. I'll see you guys on the next one.